We'll say a very good morning to Mark Littlewood, former director of the Institute of Economic Affairs, now director of Popular Conservatism, live on the Talk Breakfast Show. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well. Just about managing in socialist Britain, Jeremy. Just about getting by. Good to be with you.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not sure why we're working. Why? I mean, I was away last week, and I keep repeating this, Mark. Right? The message from this government, which I think is so dangerous, whatever your political persuasion, is that going to work, grafting for your family, paying your tax, not breaking the law, even if you're not getting any benefits in terms of, I'm talking not benefits, you don't go on holiday, you don't go out, but you're just doing the right thing. Sod that. It's much better to do nothing and shell out kids. I think it is such a dangerous message that this budget has spent. And today, Starmer's going to come out and defend her. She has to go, doesn't she, Rachel Reeves?
Yes, I would have thought so, Jeremy, for a multitude of reasons. And you say it's a dangerous message. Well, I completely agree with you, but it's also a message that is getting across, right? More millionaires are leaving Britain than any country in the world other than China. And if we were to look at the latest net immigration statistics, it looks like the numbers are down, but that's because so many bright young people are leaving. So if Britain was a business, we're basically importing vast numbers of people who are tax eaters, who by and large are, a burden on the welfare system in the Exchequer. And we are exporting not just people who have made a decent wedge of cash and have decided they're going to retire elsewhere to make sure Rachel Reeves can't get her hands on their money, but also bright young things who have decided that their career prospects are much better in, say, Dubai or America or Singapore or even some other European countries than staying in the UK. All in all, it's a disaster. So it's not just the overall competence of the economic policy. I mean, we were told they would be laser focused on growth. Well, we're heading in exactly the opposite direction. I do think that Rachel Reeves, to put it at its mildest, has been economical with the truth. That's a very, very serious charge indeed, because what the Chancellor says has enormous implications for how markets move. And if you're not telling the unalloyed truth, you are manipulating those markets. Pretty disgraceful state of affairs, really.
Interesting. Nigel Farage is on in an hour, says that Reeves must face a sleaze probe in the House of Commons. Alex Burkhardt, the shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, was just on, says the Tories have written to the FCA, the regulatory body, today, saying, do you know what, actually, if this was a business, this woman would be dragged to explain her situation. We've got ministers front of the Times literally now briefing newspapers saying that they were lied to. Everybody's taking a position, and yet Starmer, the most incompetent Prime Minister, it says, ever, is going to come out this morning and defend her. Have these two got a death wish, or are they just literally so joined by the hip that there's no way out of this mess? Because I think so many people will look at this and just go, here's a woman and a man who are clearly out of their depth.
Yes, I think that's right. And Jeremy, it's even worse than you say. The Prime Minister's not just coming out to defend her. He's coming out to give a message which was the exact opposite of what last week's budget delivered. We're going to be told the welfare system doesn't work and needs colossal reform. So why last Wednesday did the government shuffle and shovel a whole ton of money away from the productive side of the economy into the welfare state? So it's all over the place. I mean, it speaks of complete chaos. I mean, you look at this government and you think the left hand doesn't know what the extreme left hand is doing, basically.
I like that. And I think also that thing I said earlier, I don't know if you were listening, was that, they made a big thing, didn't they, before they came to power, about growth and working people and doing the right thing and putting the country before party. There is no doubt that budget, there is no doubt today's announcement about increasing or decreasing the welfare spend as against last week is nothing more than shoring up their position, I would suggest, amongst their own backbench MPs. So we've now got a Prime Minister and Chancellor who are hamstrung and are at the ordering, if you like, of the left-wing mob. That's the reality of where we're at, isn't it?
Seems no doubt about that based on their behaviour, does it? I mean, the Labour Party is really no longer the workers' party. It is the party of people who are benefits claimants and in the public sector. That's where they've got to. Yeah. And so they are indulging that client vote, if you like, desperately trying to cling on to some sort of level of support as their opinion poll ratings tank. And as they say, if you rob Peter to pay Paul, you can be guaranteed of Paul's vote. Well, that seems to be more or less what they're doing, really. And this laser focused on growth stuff has turned out to be a complete and utter nonsense. If you want to get growth into the economy, there's a pretty straightforward, tried and tested way of doing it. You try and get government spending under control, not up. You try and get the tax burden down, especially where incentives matter, and you try to deregulate. That is the pathway to try and inject some growth into the economy. And they're doing the exact opposite. They're sort of engaged in some sort of rain dance that they sort of think if they just say growth enough and look to the heavens, growth will magically appear. And I think we've just seen this morning, KPMG have said they think that this budget is going to dampen growth yet again. And Jeremy, that puts you in a death spiral, right? Because if growth dampens, then your tax revenues go down. And I think we're going to be in Groundhog Day at the next budget, quite probably with a new chancellor. They'll be coming back for even more because tax receipts will be disappointing because so many people would have downed tools or even left the country, and they'll have to come yet again. And you were mentioning earlier, Jeremy, that the total amount they put up tax by, 66 billion. Well, that just sounds like a huge number, but let's put that into some sort of context. That is on average £2,300 for each and every household.
Which is exactly what Rishi Sunak said in that clip that's resurfaced.
Right.
Not that I was a Rishi Sunak fan in the end, but he said it. And I remember saying during the election campaign, Mark, that if you go back in history, you will find out when push comes to shove that the Labour Party only ever do one thing, which is spend more put more out than they bring in. They overspend and we end up skint. And that is where we are. I would go further and say she'll end up, or whoever it is, begging the IMF to do it. We will be exactly where we were in 79 when Thatcher came in. That's not condoning anything the ridiculous Tories did at an end. But I find myself sitting here thinking, come on, I want the markets to spook and get rid of her like Liz Truss. But that's probably just wishful thinking. Mark, you're very kind. We really appreciate you. Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism UK, live and exclusive on Talk's Breakfast Show.